Welcome to the Green Wasp Removal YouTube channel. In this episode, we continue training and mentoring the Manchester University Wasp Survey Team on August 1st, 2024, as they suited up to take on their first underground yellowjacket nests of the season. We were called to a private residence here in upstate Indiana, USA, to remove two separate Eastern Yellowjacket nests that were located only a few feet apart in the backyard near a play structure that was being built for some small children that often visited this property. So these dangerous ground nests had to go for sure. Vespula Maculifrons, or Eastern Yellowjackets, are a very beneficial native wasp in this region that help pollinate plants and also act as biological pest control agents. So when these nests are located in a safe place, they should be left alone and allowed to do their good work in the environment. But when they are too close to people, they can be extremely territorial and defensive when disturbed. It's worthy of note that this client was very environmentally aware, so they allowed a third Eastern Yellowjacket nest to remain on their property because it was located far enough away from the play structures to be safe. It was in an area of the yard that was not used often, so they put up a little fence around it to protect it because they knew these wasps would help control their pest insects all season. We encourage everyone to do the same for all wasp nests whenever they can. Wasps are very beneficial insects overall, so they should always be allowed to survive whenever possible. So this was the first ground nest for the 2024 Manchester University Wasp Survey Team, and they did a great job. They collected a whole bunch of female workers. This will be a great collection for Venom Immunotherapy purposes. And then they went ahead and dug out the brood comb, which had thousands of cells in it, and we can incubate that in a semi-captive, free-range environment off-site. That way we can collect from this brood comb as they pupate out and hatch out into adult wasps. So as you'll see in this episode, this team really excels at on-the-job training. This was their first dig for an underground nest, and they nailed it. They pulled out a perfectly developed and undamaged Vespula Maculifrons nest. That's Eastern Yellowjacket. And now we can use this nest as a incubation specimen that we can collect from several more times as these pupating wasps hatch out as adults. We'll show you how the team captures the queen and makes sure she's contained so that this nest will not reform. If you leave the queen under the ground and collect everything else, the nest will just rebuild. You have to capture the queen, and they did that. We'll then show you the second nest collection, which was a smaller nest, but it was definitely active, and they were certainly in the mood to sting. We'll show you how we captured the second queen and brought the brood comb from that nest into captivity, where we can also incubate that one. Underground yellowjacket nests are always fascinating to look at. The engineering is unbelievable, how much dirt they can remove from underground. These illustrations will show you exactly what it looks like underground. There's a long tunnel that leads down into a large cavity where they put layer after layer of nest, and they cover that whole thing in paper. The fact that these tiny insects can carry that much dirt up to the surface, and they can excavate out an area the size of a soccer ball or even a basketball, is pretty amazing. In this episode, we'll also show you how we incubate the ground nest above ground in a container, and how we ultimately collect the adults that are pupated out for Venom Immunotherapy. So let's take you back to August 1st, 2024, and we'll show you the entire process. Thanks for riding along with us. Enjoy the show.
It's August 1st, 2024. We are approaching ground nest season with the yellowjackets that like to burrow underground in cavities. Today's team is Elise and Sam and Katie and Jaden and Jillian, and we're going to train in today on how to handle ground nests. And what we have today are two ground nests. They're both over here near a children's play structure, and for that reason they're very dangerous here, and they have to be removed because the children could easily be attacked. What you see here is a Vespula Maculifrons nest. That's an Eastern Yellowjacket, and you'll see the foragers coming out to go hunt pest insects. That's what they feed their larvae, and to go find nest building material, and to go find nectar for the adults. So it's very active. You see many coming and going here. Then, only a few feet away, there's a second nest right here. These yellowjackets prefer the ground to be rather dry. So as you see here, it's dried ground. You can see the grass is browned out. And when it's very wet, they have a hard time putting their nests underground. So when you have soil like this, that's what they're attracted to. So you see these coming and going. This nest is not quite as active as the other, but they're both active, and we'll work them both today. Got one inside, step right away, very quietly. Step back. Walk right through the whole process. If you got a couple, that's okay. Little gas, you don't need much. Then hold it off so you don't get any oxygen through the holes. And then hold it right upside down till they drop down and they stop moving. Everybody see how that works? You see how the gas is affecting them? Once they're completely disabled, they're not running around, they're not flying. That's when you can open it up. Then you can take your imagery. You just want to flip them over. You can see the turga. Once you can see the turga, get your imagery just like that. You see this screen?
Just a note on voiceover here. What the team is doing is attempting to get imagery close up on these yellowjackets. This allows the team to see close-up images of the tergum or the sections of the abdomen. The marking you see in the red circle allows us to identify the species most of the time. In this case, we see on the first tergite kind of an old-fashioned anchor-looking marking, and that tells us this is the Eastern Yellowjacket, or Vespula Maculifrons.
There you have it. That's your Vespula Maculifrons marking. You have a ground nest. You don't want to block the hole because they're orienting visually right now. If you screw up the hole, then they can't tell where they are and they just start hovering and going crazy because they're lost. So what you do instead is you set this up adjacent to the hole so you can catch them when they're coming and going, but you're not blocking the hole.
Oh, they're investigating.
Yep. Then you're going to go ahead and put your staple in. Keep it right there. You're going to clear away any debris so that the camera can see what's going on. And then you're going to fire up your vac. You see how they hover around the inside of the hole? They know something's up. So they're very cautious. And eventually they'll just stay. Now see how they're attacking? It's time to start the vacuum. So what we do, we use the least amount of pressure like always. Let me know when they start getting collected.
Okay, yeah.
Good. Now you see how they are already aware something's up, so they're not coming out. So we're going to let them just get collected for a while, because there's a lot of foragers out already. We're going to want those foragers to come back. And you see how in the meantime, they're attacking. They're going after the darker parts of this device. They like the dark colors because that's what natural predators generally look like, it's darker colors. Now if we look over here, you can see them starting to come into the container. And that's what we want. Here they come. Now, from a collection standpoint, it's very important that we don't get any debris in the container. No grass, no dirt. That's why we hover above the nest. But we don't make contact with the ground. And we're getting them both as they come in and come out. We're going to not make too much of a mess around the nest because we want them to visually orient on the hole. But once we do the collection and we start to dig, mirrors are great because they keep you off the ground, which is a little easier than having them crawling on your legs a lot. And it also is just simply ergonomically better for your body to have a pad. So do try to use the pad when you have a pad. If not, it's not a big deal. But it's just more comfortable and it's better ergonomics.
They don't seem to be as strong in flight as the other wasps that we've handled. They get sucked right in and the other ones don't.
Absolutely true. They're very small. By comparison, look at the size of them. They're almost as small as flies. Some flies are much bigger than they are. You know, horse flies, deer flies. Some of the big black house flies are bigger than they are. They're pretty tiny. Now, that said, they pack a sting, man. You'll feel it if they get you. So it's no different than any other wasp sting, just because they're small. Now, as you see, there's quite a few already being collected. And that's exactly what we want. We want the device to do the work. We don't want to have to do a lot of collecting ourselves. We want the vacuum to simply do its job. So part of what we do here is just be patient. Allow the device to take care of things for you. And if you're finding that you need to adjust it because too many are getting past you, either going in or coming out, just readjust the staple, get it stable, and put it in whatever area you want it to be in. But so far, I think it looks like it's in a pretty good spot. Anybody seeing many get past it?
Yeah, pretty much all of them that take flight next to it or near it.
Excellent. And
Stuck down.
they're not getting too beat up inside, hopefully.
Yeah, they seem to have a mostly difficult time. I just saw one make it into what was that.
Okay, great. As long as we're getting most of them, that's the main thing. And you'll be amazed at how many of these things are in these nests. There's thousands of them in these nests. There's probably a couple thousand already in there. There might be more. Anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 is pretty common, depending on what time of the season it is. It's now slowing down because we've basically contained most of them. We don't want to cause a big swarm of stuff flying all over the place because it makes it harder for them to collect, makes it take longer, and it makes it more dangerous for us and anybody around here. So in general, we're doing our best to keep it contained and collect as many as we can before we dig. Calms down, and a lot of the foragers that are out come back and get collected. And then we'll do our little rain dance and get the rest of them out of there, and then we'll dig. Now, in the meantime, what's happening here is all their pheromones are getting sucked through the collection bottle, through the tube, and into the device, and it's coming out the vent. What you're often going to see is if there's another nest nearby, or even some of these, they're going to start smelling that pheromone, and they're going to start hovering around this thing. Okay, it looks to me like traffic is starting to slow down pretty good. So it's time for a rain dance. Yeah, there's a few coming back. They're looking at all this weird stuff around their hole, and they're visually orienting and saying, hey, things have changed. So they're a little less familiar now with their space. But there's still a lot of foragers coming in, so we'll give it a few more minutes. But you see how we're doing this, the process, just like with ball-based hornets. Safety for you guys, safety for the bystanders is all about slow, patient control. There's no reason to cause a swarm if you don't have to. So what the team is doing now is they're collecting, letting the device do the work. They're standing by while all the foragers that are out in the environment collecting insects for their young, collecting nesting material to build the nest, and flying back to the nest. The team is allowing that to happen, and that's the first few minutes of every ground nest removal, is that simple process. So as we do this, it's all done this way quite purposefully with very good intention. What we don't want is any children coming to the neighbor's fence. There's a play structure right there. We know there's kids here, for example. So the more swarm control you can do, the better. And we vibrate it. And we do that by stomping on it. Vibration causes a panic and attack response in the wild. So that's what we're going to do. Rush out. Someone step here and do the same. See how they're coming up? This is the attack response. See them all coming out? That's what we want. Keep going. Somebody else grab it right here. Do the same right here. Step right here. This is our little rain dance. Just freaks them out enough to make them come up. I'm going to film while you take over here. Just give it a good stomp. Give it as much vibration as you can. You see how they're starting to flood out? That's what we want. And the more they flood out, the more they have to come back, and we'll catch them coming and going. Okay, let's back off for a second. So they don't attack us, they just go for the materials. Now I'm going to show what's on Jaden's arm. This is what they'll do. They grab onto you with their mandibles. That's their mouth parts. And they grab on like this, and then they use their stinger to sting, sting, sting. So that's what this is doing right now. And they're all going to do that. You see how they're in my glove now, same way, okay? So shake them off. When they're there, kind of don't kill them. You want them to survive, but you want them to go away and get collected, and they'll fly back to the nest. Now you see how they're going for the camera view as well. And you see how they're starting to stay right in the nest hole. Take a look at this. These guys are smart. They know there's a danger. Take a look at the hole here. You see how they're hanging out in there? They know that if they come out, there's danger. So they're just sort of parked there. So give them another stomp. See how there's fewer and fewer coming out because we've gotten most of the collection. Take a look at that. There's a ton of them in there already. And that's exactly what we want. We want them in the container. We want them to come out and get collected. That's why we stomp, get that panic response until all the workers are out. At least the ones that are willing to come out and attack. There you go. And we're going to take a look at the inside of the nest with the scope cam. And what we're looking to see is what reaction we get from these guys, because this stirs them up and makes them come out, and that's what we want. But we also want to know what direction is our nest. So you see them starting to attack the camera. See how they'll immediately start to sting it. But what we want to do, so if you see this, that's what they do. They attack the camera. But that's okay. At this point, we just want them to come out so they'll get sucked up when they come back. And in the meantime, we just want to get a little bit of information on what's underneath the ground. Alright, so as you go through, it can be difficult to see much of anything until you get the right distance. So just pull back until you get a good clear image. And sometimes there's enough of a turn in the tunnel that you can't quite get a clear shot. And sometimes that's just the best you can do. So sometimes you can get down there, sometimes you can't. Yeah. Doesn't look like we can quite get down where we need to be, and that's okay. So you see how just a little bit of vibration Gets them out where we want them. All right, you can see we have lots of collection now. It looks great. So what we're going to do now is start to dig. And what we're trying to do is slice it so we can follow the tunnel. So we'll put a slice here. So you bring your trowels down and you take a look. What we're trying to do is identify where that tunnel went. So you gently, like an archaeological dig, you go through until you find the rest of that tunnel. It can be as much as 18 inches underground, which is pretty deep, and sometimes less.
I think stomping in this area got the most.
Oh, here we go.
Wow.
You find the hole, get this down, start collecting. You just found it. Keep it right there, don't get any debris. Okay? Try to remove the debris first so we don't put it in the collection device. Now, grab a hand trowel. If you grab that little kneeler, please.
Oh, I can see it. I can see it's very small.
It's right here.
You're trying to open it up a little more?
In a second, yeah. Hold on, let me get a good camera angle here. Keep collecting it right there. Keep it right over the hole. So as they come out, we can get them. Now, what we're going to do is just let them come out here for a minute. Make sure we have good suction. Now we're good. And what you're going to do is start taking slices until we find where the hole goes. Come on back with it. Come on back with the collection device. There you go. Put it right there. Let's just collect a few while we're at it. So right now we've changed up their visual orientation. So they don't see where the hole was, but they're always going to go for the dark hole that they see in the ground. So as long as you're hovering above that without getting debris, you're good. So as we dig, we get more and more dirt and debris. It's important that you hover above that and you don't allow that to get into the collection device. Now we're going to take another slice. So back off. Take another little chunk. See how close we're getting to the hole. All right, you see where it is now? So now you're going to hover over that. We're getting very close to where the nest is. It's a relatively shallow nest, it looks like. But now you see down there, Jade, if you look over, you can see that hole. Yeah. That's where you're looking.
I think that's pretty good.
Yep, that's perfect. That means we're getting a pretty shallow nest, which keeps our dig to the minimum, which is what we want. It's a little easier when it's not such a huge hole. So give it a couple of stomps, Sam. It's easier than using your fist. You don't want to hurt your hand. But just stomp it out a little bit. Try to get them stirred up. Because as we move along, we want to collect as we go. Make sure you don't get any dirt in there, Jaden. Hover up high enough that you're just not going to have to worry about that.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to dig another slice. Anybody want to do that?
Sure.
Okay, come on in.
Elise, do you want to trade me?
You're going to gently take a slice just following the hole. That's all we're doing right now. And here is where we're focusing because this is where the tunnel leads. You see them coming out of there. So what we're trying to do is just follow that hole. And if you need to take some more surface earth, you can do that with the spade. But I can see paper there. Here. See right there? That's paper. We're now at the nest. That's how you know you're at the nest. It's cream-colored paper with this particular species. It's always a cream color. So there they are, coming out, and the nest is right there. And we'll dig that in a minute. So good job, we found that one pretty quickly with minimal damage to the yard, which is what we're always trying to do. So right there is the nest. The next part of this process is we're going to dig all around the circumference of that nest. And we're going to try to expose the whole nest before we try to remove it. Great job. Good collection for Venom Immunotherapy. That's a lot of wasps right there. all mostly female workers here. So Elise is hovering above the hole because we don't want any dirt or debris in the collection to contaminate the wasps and the venom. So it's always best to keep a little bit above the hole like she is. So as you can see here, they're hanging out and there's fewer and fewer of them to give the attack response. So these little tiny workers, they come out and they're kind of confused now. They look around, they might try to sting, but there's less immediate attack, less immediate sting. You see how this one's going through the seam in the glove? Because there's a natural hole there. Be aware of that. When they get to the seam, they can sting you through the seam, and they really look for those little holes to get in. Okay, so if you see one, just flick it off your hand. You know, just try to keep yourself from getting stung. So far so good. Everything's going exactly like it should. Still plenty of them trying to get to our gloves, but most of them now are contained. So now we're going to start to dig. Let's go right now. I'm going to dig a little bit so we'll have you back out. So what we're trying to do is get this top layer of 4 or 5 inches of soil out of the way. So we get this out, we throw it right in to our bucket. And the dirt bucket's here because it just simply makes it easier to collect it there and then to put it back in the hole later. Now, as we get through the top layer, be very careful not to crush the nest if you can help it. Sometimes you do anyway, but we're trying not to crush it. You see that cavity? This was an old rodent burrow, most likely. This cavity space right here is where an old rodent hole or a tunnel or a root cavity was. And the queen wasp found that hole, and she started to lay her eggs in there and build a nest and dig out this space. And when the first generation of these workers were born, they started digging one little mouthful at a time. They'd come up the tunnel, dump it out, come up the tunnel, dump it out, until they dug all the way around this whole space and allowed this thing to be big enough for them to make the nest. So now let's take our trowels, gently remove the dirt so you can see this nest. You see the top of the nest? It's covered in paper, just like a bald-faced hornet nest, except it's underground. We're going to try to see the whole thing. Everybody see that? We're going to try to expose the whole thing and expose the whole cavity before we pull out the nest. In the meantime, our little wasps are grabbing on with their mandibles, trying to sting, because that's what they do. But that's great. The nest is nice and intact. There you go. Leave it right above the dirt so you don't get any dirt in the container, but you can suck up a few of them that are flying around. And if you turn it over so that they can see the hole, a lot of times they'll actually fly right into it. So put the hole there because they'll explore the hole, because they do that naturally. There you go. You want them to go right in that dark hole. That's what they do. Let's make it even more. There you go. Let's see how that works. Move that grass out of the way. There you go. Good. You want them to go right for that nest, right for that hole. Okay, so as you see them coming in, if the traffic slows down, put it right about there. We're going to try now to dig the circumference of the nest. Let's pull the device back a bit, and we'll have Sam come right around here. You do the spade or the shovel, whichever one, the trowel or the shovel. What you're going to do is protect the nest with one trowel while you dig with the other. Okay, so go ahead and dig down. And Jaden, if you want to come around, you can hold this and protect the nest with it. Okay, so go ahead and put that over the nest. Don't let the nest get crushed. There you go. We're just going to slice away and then pick that up and dump it right into the bin. That chunk of earth. Take that right out of there.
Into the nest.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Grab that chunk, pick it right up, toss it. Great. That's what we're doing. We're just exposing the whole nest. Now, like an archaeological dig, just gently kind of uncover that nest, trying not to break the paper. You can use your fingers, you can use your trowels, whatever works. We want to find all the edges of the nest. We want to expose the whole thing before we try to lift it out. Find like where the edge of that cavity space is. There you go, it's perfect. Just keep digging around till we see the entire circumference of the nest. I'm going to go through here a little bit, because sometimes you can feel it out a little easier with your hand. There you go. Great. Kind of get all that out of there. We have root cutters. Go grab the root cutters if you need them. They're in the bucket with the trowels. Sometimes they use the roots to help support their nest, and you have to cut the roots out. Great job. That's exactly what we're doing. Going right around the circumference of the nest. Try to get this part cleared and see what kind of circumference you have there on that side. There you go. You just grab a chunk with your hand, get rid of it. Sorry. Gently expose the nest with your fingers. You can just kind of brush it off a little bit. Try not to break the paper open yet. Because the more you keep it intact, the less swarming you get. Yeah, it looks great, guys. So far, it's perfect. This is exactly how these removals are supposed to go. Digging around the whole circumference, figuring it'll be at least softball size, sometimes as big as soccer ball size. It just kind of depends as you move along how big you're going to find it. They can be as large as basketballs. That looks great. Always keep it out of the grass and debris. Alright, you can start digging a little more aggressively around the edges. Try to figure out where the boundaries of this nest are. And as you do more of these this season, you'll get to the point where you just go flying through this. And it becomes kind of more intuitive where the edges are and where you can dig with more force. But just kind of feel it out.
Some kind of thread.
Yeah, that's great. So let's see where we're at here. Take a little bit more here, please. And let's see what we got on this side. Coming right around. Good, try to remove some of this stuff here. Expose more of that side. There you go. Great. Looking good. Jillian, you want to try some of this? You're welcome to come down where I am if you like, and you can help dig some of this out. I'll trade spots with you. So, Jillian, on this side, anything that's toward you, just start scooping it out and dump it in this bin. Any of that dirt. Just reach in sort of gently so you can feel the pressure of the nest and you know how much tension it has. I want each of you guys to feel that nest, understand how delicate it is and how it feels when it's underground. And that way, as you do more of these this season, You'll be able to understand where you need more pressure, where you need less pressure while you're digging, and you can feel the whole experience. It really does help. So get your hands in there, feel that nest, feel how it feels as it starts to loosen up. Feel how it feels to dig around it. There you go. Now we're starting to get to the point where it's loosening up. There's good collection happening here. Anybody been stung yet? No. That means you protected yourselves well. Good job. Now we're getting to the point where we might see the queen. And what you're looking for is a large version of this black and yellow little worker. She'll be much bigger. She'll be pretty easy to tell that she's the queen. Yeah. All right, so now we're in. We're gonna have several layers of comb. So what I want you to do, one of you guys reach in there, go down to the bottom as far as you can, and gently try to lift as much of the nest intact as you can. And I'll show you something. It's gonna be kind of like this. You're gonna dig in under, and you're gonna lift it up like a hamburger and drop it right into this. Shake it off a little bit to get the dirt off it before you put it in. So turn it upside down, shake it off a little bit. Great. Now show me the camera view. Flip it over. You see all that larva? Fantastic. It's a really good nest. Somewhere in here is the queen. Look for a large wasp. She'll be in here or she'll be in there. For now, let's put this nest right in here. We're going to assume the queen's in there. And that's great because we'll be able to incubate this nest.
Is that it?
She'll be very large. You'll see her, and she'll be really obvious most of the time because she's so much bigger.
She's pretty big.
Great job. Now, make sure you're not getting any debris. Keep this up and above, right about there. Now, what I like to do when you get to this point is let's see if there's any more comb that we're missing. You dig down in here, and you just sift through. See, there's one right there. We're going to save that comb. We're going to add it to that. You see it?
Wow. Right there.
You got another one?
No.
And the queen, that's her.
Yeah.
So pick her up. Hold on, let me film her. There's our queen. You see how much bigger she is than the larva. That could be the original queen, or it could be one that was born in the nest. Either way, we're going to pick her up and get her. There she goes. Good job. That's what we're looking for. Keep your eyes open. You might see more of those as you sift through. And we're going to look for more nests. Looks like we might have more in this section. Okay. Got it.
There's another one on your side.
Okay, cool.
Up there. Farther up.
Well, you see what I'm doing? It's okay. For now, you see what I'm doing here? I'm lifting this out, and I'm sifting it off, and the wasps that are going to stick to my glove, you can now get them without any dirt. Okay? All right, looking good. So go ahead and grab handfuls of that, sift it out, looking for any more comb. Dig around the circumference, make sure we don't miss any pancake comb that maybe is hiding in there. All right, good job. Your first ground nest. You guys did great.
I think that's it.
Does that look pretty good?
I don't think there are any more comb structures.
All right, let's just scoop out all the dirt then and get out every piece of paper you can. We don't want to leave anything with pheromone in it. We want to dig beyond that and put it all in this bucket.
Should I use the full-size shovel?
Yeah, you can use the full shovel. You can use your hands at this point. There's no more wasps really to worry about, so you can just dig it out with whatever you've got. Very few wasps here and there. What I like to do is when we get to this point, you can sift it. And when you sift it like this, oftentimes they'll end up on your glove, and then you can take them right off your glove without getting any dirt. So you can sift through there, try to find any that come out, and they stay on your glove, then you take them. See what I mean? So try that a few times. Try to get a few more of them. Just make sure you're not collecting dirt. All All right, great job. So far, this has gone absolutely perfect. Let's take a good look at our nest. Here we have a layer of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of comb. That's a good busy Maculifrons nest. As you can see, there's a lot of larvae in there and a lot of pupating wasps. So this one would have produced thousands of wasps.
Down there.
Just do your best to get only the wasps, not the dirt. There you go.
Did you get that one?
No, I got away.
All right, that's okay. So far, everything's gone really perfectly. So now get all the rest of that paper and stuff out of there, and then we'll refill it here in a minute after we spray it down with some of the oils.
Put the oil on this side.
Perfect. All right, so Jillian is looking at our Maculifrons nest, and as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 layers on this nest. And this is a really good, healthy-looking Maculifrons nest. Lots of pupa, lots of larvae, lots of eggs. So this would have been a very busy nest all season. Now, in general, you would leave this nest in place if it was in a place that wasn't dangerous to your family, your pets, your kids. But this one is right next to a play structure and a bench out here in the yard. So this had to go, but these are fantastic for the environment. In general, you never want to kill these unless you have to move them. And if you do have to kill them, never use poison. Just dump dish soap and water into their hole at dusk when they're all back in the nest, and you can drown them and suffocate them that way. But we're going to take this back to the lab and we're going to let it incubate because we want to collect all of these pupating wasps. So that's the plan for this nest. All right. Now the next step here is we make sure everything's out of there that's wasp related. There's nothing left but dirt. And once we're at that point, we're going to spray it down with our essential oil, soap and water mix, just to make it less attractive for more wasps to come in. Then we're going to refill the dirt. Excellent. You guys are doing fantastic. Look at that collection. That looks excellent.
There's a lot more here, son.
Yeah, there might be more worth collecting. And what you do is just grab it and sort it, sift it out, see what you can find. When you get to the point where there's just a couple here and there, then don't worry about it. We'll refill.
Even with the remaining paper?
Yep, with the remaining paper and wasps, that looks pretty good to me because we got most of what would be attractive to wasps. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the spray hooked up and pumped up and ready to spray this area down. Then we're going to refill all this dirt and put it back in the hole. So let's go ahead and leave the vacuum running so we can collect any few that might show up and we'll get that going. So what we have here is a spray container filled with soap and water and essential oil, like clove, lemongrass, peppermint mix, that kind of thing, along with dish soap and water. This is non-toxic. It's very important that we're not putting toxins into this yard. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pump up the sprayer, lock it off, and then when you guys spray that down, make sure you're not spraying into the container, move the container, and then make sure you're not spraying into anybody's face or on any of the tools. And then just go ahead and give it a little soak down. Give it enough on the sides so we're not leaving any pheromone around this area. There you go. Looks great. That's good. Okay, now we're going to start dumping in layers of dirt. So dump in maybe 5 inches of dirt and then spray it, 5 more and then spray it, that kind of thing. We're going to layer it up. I wouldn't collect any more of that. It's been hit by the oil. Okay, let's go ahead and cap off for now. Who's got the cap? It'll be in the bucket if it's not in a pocket.
Can we get those that are on the paper?
Yeah, let's see. They're being attracted to the nest. if you can get them, just leave it right there. And hopefully they'll go ahead and suck themselves up. Yeah, if there's any more down in the hole, let's leave them down there. There's a lot of these foragers are returning from foraging. Right, so Sam, you can do that over here if you like. Just kind of leave it right here. And as they come and cluster around it, you can suck them up. Help her bring the vac over, please. And she can stand right here, and as they come to the nest, that'll work. Great, kind of keep it right there. And just as they come back, maybe you can get a few more. Now, Sam's packing down the earth, giving it another little spray, and then putting more on there. You can dump all the rest in there.
Is there any difference between the kinds that nest on the ground and the aerial ones, or is it just like where they choose to put the nest?
Yes, there is a species difference. The ones that are aerial in nature, they're called Vespula, whereas the ones that are cavity dwellers that don't hang their nest out in the open, they're called Vespula. So Vespula are aerial, that's ball-faced hornet, yellow hornet, that kind of thing. And there's the rest, which are cavity dwellers, which are Vespula. That's the yellowjacket species. Now let's take a look at these guys. That looks excellent. Nice collection. Let's go ahead and cap off for now.
What if I can just get them?
Yeah, if you can get a couple more, that's fine. Sometimes they'll land, sometimes they won't. Mostly they're interested in the nest. If you want to hover around the nest, it's okay. I just don't want to suck up the comb, because I like to keep that if we can. Okay. So we'll use these as kind of bait to lure them in. All right, how's it looking, Sam?
Looking pretty good.
All right, now what we do, grab that fork scraper out of the bucket, please, and we're going to just scrape this down. And that looks great, man. Good job, everybody. Well done. All right, we can leave it just like it is for now. This thing we can be done with for the moment. Now, when you get the pressure sprayer, when you're done with it, vent it. Don't look at it because it'll spray your face, but vent it when you're done. And we'll do the next one in a minute. All right, so where's that fork? There it is. So here's what you do. Remove this bucket, please. And what we're going to do is just take all this dirt and do this. It makes the grass stand back up, brings the dirt back into the hole, anything that's left over. So we just kind of bring the yard back to the way it was as best we can. There we go. So that is how you remove a ground nest. Good job, everybody. Excellent. Now we're going to do nest number 2. All right, so Jillian and Elise are capping off our specimen collection bottle. There you go. Give it a twist. Make sure there's nobody
There's some
camping
sitting
out there.
right there.
That's okay. There you go. Just pull it off and cap it off. There you go. Great. Once you get a solid lock on that cap, you can turn off the vacuum pressure.
Okay. Perfect.
All right, your first ground nest. Anybody have any questions on that?
No?
Went smooth. Good job.
No. Oh, wait, no.
That's close enough. It's one of those wacky caps. Some of them are like that. As long as it can't pop back off.
Wait, is it broken?
Yeah, it's been a little broken, but as long as they can't get out, as long as it's not a wasp-sized hole. All right, August 1st, 2024, the Wasp survey team has just pulled out their first ground nest. What'd you think of that? Pretty smooth?
Yeah.
All right, you guys did great. So here's where the nest used to be. Now it just looks like the rest of the yard. So good job. That's exactly what we want to do. Here's what we collected today. These are Vespula Maculifrons, Eastern Yellowjacket. These are all female workers. And that is exactly what we need for Venom Immunotherapy. So great job, guys. Now we're going to do the second nest, and that nest is over here. So let's go get that one and see what comes out of here.
Can you move some of the grass away from here?
Yeah, let's move some grass so you can see it better. It's a smaller hole. It's a younger nest probably, and a smaller nest. Yeah, it's much different in size. But let's go ahead and clear that just a little bit. Okay, now if we stomp it out, we might get them to come out and break through that dirt. Okay. We made a little bit of a hole there. Okay, let's give it a rest for a second. Let me have that trowel. We'll try to open that hole up again. There they go. Here they come. All right, give it another stomp. Now they've got some room to come out. Okay, right about now. Here we come. Right, now we got them. Keep going. Keep going. Good, now they're starting to come. Good, keep it up. Alright. Good. Okay, looks like this one's got pretty low traffic, so we can move right into digging.
It's actually where I am.
I don't see anything that way. I can try and slice a different direction.
Yeah, wherever you think you want to look,
I mean, it's not that way, it's kind of that
take
way.
a slice.
You got something, Sam?
That's a nasty getting set.
Grab that for them.
Yeah, as you start digging through,
Cavity.
feel around for a cavity anywhere.
Where did that whole goat
Is
sit?
it possible that it is a really young nest?
Yeah, it would be a
There
fairly
would be a
small
queen,
nest.
right?
Yep, there would be a queen and there would be a cavity. And you have to just go digging and exploring until you find it. Some are easier to find than others, you know.
Certainly root.
Okay.
White on the inside.
Well, you can yank that or you can cut it with the root cutter, whatever you like. Usually roots are a sign that you're probably getting close to the root cavity that they started the nest in. So the team is doing exploratory work here, trying to track where the hole is gone. And a lot of times you just have to keep digging until you find what you're looking for.
Alright, let's go.
Do workers from one nest ever
Set
go
a
like
hole?
nearby and try and build up like a second nest nearby?
Usually without the queen and their main comb, the workers will not try to build a new nest. They will try to dig and find their old nest, but they won't try to build a new one, usually.
At this point in the dig on the second nest, we lost camera function due to a technical issue, and we hadn't even exposed the nest yet. So rather than attempt to pull the nest without footage being captured, we went ahead and postponed it, came back 2 days later, and we're going to show you that footage now. We went ahead and refilled the dirt for the time being, and you'll see that within 24 hours, the wasps that are still underground in their nest dig a nice new tunnel right up to the surface, and that shows us directly where they are.
Right now, we're taking a brief pause to shut down the vac. And what we're doing is letting them reacclimate and reorient on their hole.
first layer of comb. It's actually the most recent one built, probably. So we'll freeze the frame here just for a moment so you can take a look at the different life stages in this nest. You can see the tiny eggs that are beginning to develop into small larvae. You can see immature larvae. You can see mature larvae. And you can see the white silk caps, which are the most mature larvae that have just sewn a silk cap over the top of their cells, which they do with a gel substance that comes out of glands in their mouth. And as soon as that gel hits the oxygen, it hardens into a fine silk thread, and that's what they use to make these white silk caps. At this stage, they have become pupae, and they begin to go through a couple of weeks of transformation in several stages called instars, and then they become adult wasps. You can see the backside of the abdomen of an adult wasp here that has tucked itself back into a cell, which is common behavior for the newly born wasps on the nest. They'll kind of dig down into one of the empty cells, and they do this behavior because they're eventually going to try to do trophallaxis with the larvae down in those cells. Trophallaxis involves a two-way feeding, where the adult wasp would typically give protein from hunted insects to the larva, and in exchange the larva will produce a sweet carbohydrate fluid that the adult wasps can use for their own sustenance. So it's a two-way exchange. That's a great evolutionary development because it gives a very high incentive for the wasps to go out and hunt and then feed the larva, because the larva will then feed them. What a great mutual survival tactic. There's the queen right there. You see how large she is. And she tries to run for it. And we're grabbing her. You see how large she is compared to the workers. See the workers below her. She's quite big. And we always want to try to grab the queen so that they don't reestablish a nest. Now our queen is contained. Let's see how many layers we have here. There's a brand new wasp, brand newly born on the nest. It can't really sting yet, can't really fly yet. It just came out of pupation. So when they chew their way out of their silk cap as adult wasps, as is the case with the one you see here on the nest, they're very vulnerable at this stage. So they stay on the nest for a couple of days before they're strong enough to become foragers or workers. Maculifrons' nests are often so delicate they just fall apart in your hand. You got to be pretty careful with them. This was a relatively small nest. There hasn't been a lot of comb built yet. They're always busy. Busy little beavers, always trying to attack. You see how they chew with their mandibles while they sting with their abdomen. So it's a dual attack. They're biting to hold on and they're stinging. So here we are at the end of the job. We refilled all the dirt into the hole. There'll be a few over the next couple of days hovering around looking for their house, but they'll disperse into the natural ecosystem on their own and die off eventually. But as you see here, they'll come over and they'll look around and they'll just hover. They will not dig a new nest because there's no queen and no brood. So these workers will eventually just get confused and starve out, or it's possible they could join another nest. The research not quite clear on that right now. But basically, this one will be done, even though you'll see a few floating around for a couple days. So this was an active nest. Small nest, but very active. And they're stingers. I took one in the thumb when I had just my bee gloves on because they got sweaty, and that made it easy for them to get me. So I had to put on a second pair of gloves. Here you see the queen. It's much larger than the others, as you can tell. She's trying to hide herself. And the others kind of hang out around her. But we've got the queen, we got the workers. This nest is done.
So as you can see, the ground nest has produced quite a number of very viable adult workers that we can collect for venom immunotherapy. So we'll be doing a collection on this nest today. Today we're going to go ahead and collect these Vespula Maculifrons. It's an underground nest we collected a few days ago, and they've now pupated out enough for collection. So we're going to go ahead and do the collection. So today we're going to use the BVAC rig connected to the collection bottle. This is a specimen collection bottle marked for the species, Vespula Maculifrons, Eastern Yellowjacket, connected to a flexible rubber hose that we put inside the container that they're in, and we just go ahead and suck them right out of there. That way most of them stay in during the collection. So we're going to cut a small access hole into the top of this container. We're going to wear 2 sets of gloves because Maculifrons are notorious for stinging you right through the seams of your bee gloves, especially when they get sweaty and wet. The leather gets soft. So always wear 2 sets of gloves. That prevents any stings.
So with this incubation process, when we collect, and this is 4x, 4 times fast forward, you will see that we simply insert a hose in there and we collect all the adult wasps. These are the wasps that were previously just pupating. They had white silk caps over their cells, and they were born in this container. They chewed their way out, and now they're ready for collection. So we'll do this 2-3 times, and then we'll dispose of the nest when it's no longer viable. And ideally, you would tend to do this on a free-range environment. In other words, you would allow them to be in a habitat with an opening in it, so they could go out and they could bring back nest building material and they could bring back food for the larvae. But sometimes we just don't have time to deal with all that, and we just take the ground nest, throw it into a brief container, and we'll just do a couple collections on it before we dispose of it. That's what you see here. But usually free range is the way to go. That way the nest stays healthier for longer and it pupates out a higher population ultimately. We currently have several different species of wasp nests being incubated on the property. Right now we have about 7 different bald-faced hornet nests. That's Vespula maculata, aerial yellowjacket. Their free-range habitats allow them to come and go out in the ecosystem while they maintain their nests, and we collect on those every couple of days. And then inside we have another, I think, 4 different nests being incubated now. There's 2 different species of yellowjackets that are cavity dwellers. That's like Eastern Yellowjacket and German Yellowjacket. We're also incubating a Polistes dominula nest. That's a European paper wasp. And then we have a couple of bald-faced hornet nests inside in habitats where they are not allowed to go free range, but they pupate out pretty regularly.
Still plenty of pupae in each layer, so we're going to allow these to keep pupating out for a while.
So there's plenty in there. We'll have to separate them from the debris after we freeze them. There's times when you're collecting that you inevitably pick up some debris inside the specimen collection bottle. Whenever that happens, we just freeze all of it and then separate the wasps from the debris while they're frozen. The dry ice underneath the tray keeps it super cold and super chilled while these wasps are separated from the debris. That's it for today's episode. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you riding along with us. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.